Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I'm going to be showing you a new Prism Star Stadium. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We've already seen a new GX today. Now it's time for a new Prism Star. This is going to be coming out in GX Ultra Shiny in Japan, so we don't know for absolute certain, but it's coming in tag team. That set I told you about the other day, that set I leaked for you lovely ladies and gentlemen the other day, it's going to be coming in that. We've had confirmation that Lycanroc, the one we looked at earlier, is going to be in GX Ultra Shiny. We have had confirmation that GX Ultra Shiny, at least that Lycanroc, is going to be featured in tag team. So I would think it very, very unlikely that this card is not. But instead of just focusing on what set we're going to get it, probably appropriate to actually figure out if it's any good and what it actually does. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Fairy Prism Star Stadium. I cannot tell you for certain, but it doesn't have to look a lot like we're going to be getting a Prism Star Stadium for each energy type. This is the Fairy one. And according to the lovely David Hochmann, it reads, all non-Fairy Pokemon need one extra colorless energy to use attacks. It increases the attack cost of all non-Fairy Pokemon by one colorless energy. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? That sounds fair to me. I mean, if you're playing a Fairy deck. We've seen a bunch of these. This is a really good stadium. Now, before we start really digging into the minutiae of this, I do need to mention it has got the same rule as every other one of these stadiums. That is, that it cannot be removed using items or supporters. That means that a Field Blower will not be able to remove it. That means that a Fabber will not be able to remove it. You've got to get rid of it in one of two ways. Either you play your own stadium, or you use a Pokemon like Groudon, for instance, that has an attack which can remove stadiums. They are your only two choices. And this is further and further pushing us into a format where you've got to play your own stadiums. There's stuff at the moment like Shrine of Punishment, which is, to forgive the pun, punishing against GX decks. It's really harsh against GX decks. But you can use something like a Field Blower to get rid of it. There's stuff like Brooklet Hill, which is super useful for fighting and water decks, but you can use a Field Blower to get rid of it. But these Prism Star Stadiums, I mean, Thunder Mountain is one which is going to be coming out very shortly in Lost Thunder, and that one is actually pretty much the opposite of this. It reduces the attack cost of lightning Pokemon by one lightning energy. And these Prism Star Stadiums give the player so much of an advantage that it really is in a situation where you can't get rid of them with Field Blower. You've got to be playing a counter stadium or a Pokemon that discards them. Now, of course, it is a Prism Star Stadium, which means you can only put one of these in your deck, and when it gets discarded, it does go straight to the Lost Zone. But until that happens, this is great. The other thing I do need to mention here, this is in your opponent's control. So use Thunder Mountain as an example. I drop a Thunder Mountain, my attack cost is reduced, I attack, and then maybe my opponent gets rid of it, but I have had an advantage this turn from using it. Whereas Wonder Labyrinth, probably should have told you the name before now, I love this name. Wonder Labyrinth, you put it down, it goes to your opponent's turn. If they can't get rid of it, their attack cost is increased. But if they can play their own stadium, or they can get rid of it using something like a Groudon, then all of a sudden you've actually wasted your Prism Star. This is very much the same as Black Market Prism Star, whereby Darkness Pokemon with Darkness Energy attached give up one less prize. You pass to your opponent and hope they don't get rid of it before they KO you. So, just to bear in mind, this is in your opponent's control. But it's great. There are a whole bunch of Pokemon out at the moment, and basically Zoroark and Buzzwole are the two that really come to mind, that really want to be single energy attackers. And by having this in play, all of a sudden Riotous Beating for Zoroark is free colourless energy. And all of a sudden Jet Punch for Buzzwole is a fighting and a colourless, and they don't get that turn 1 attack like they wanted to. That's very, very fun. Even something like Boswell using the second energy, yes, they've got Beast Ring, but the thing is, what they generally want to do is attach one energy, then use Beast Ring and be attacking for free energy. Now, an energy in a Beast Ring won't be enough, and here's the thing. If they can't get rid of the stadium, they might have that extra energy. So they can't get rid of the stadium, they put that energy on, and then they still use a free energy attack for 4 energy. But then you KO the Boswell, and then they're losing 4 energy, and they're an energy attachment behind. So even if they have the energy, you're still punishing them because you're making them attach an extra energy. You are essentially making them waste an energy attachment, but you're also making them attach an extra energy, so there's every possibility that later on in the game, they're going to be digging for an energy and not find one because they had to use one earlier in the game. So even if you can't stop an attack here, you can force your opponent into wasting an energy attachment, and that could be big. Now, I should mention here, there are a category of Pokemon who are completely unaffected by this stadium, and weirdly, one of the biggest ones is Gardevoir. Now, to be fair, alright, Gardevoir is a fairy Pokemon, so it wouldn't be affected by the stadium anyway, but it's a nice example. You see, Gardevoir's attack does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon, for a minimum of 1 fairy energy. So if this stadium was affecting Gardevoir, and it's not because it's a fairy Pokemon, but if it was, as long as you had 2 energy on Gardevoir, it would do nothing. It wouldn't stop you doing 30 extra damage, it would just be a minimum fairy colourless. Okay, want a non-fairy example? Blacephalon GX is coming in the next set. And Blacephalon GX has a similar kind of attack. Minimum 2 fire energy. Put any amount of fire energy attached to your Pokemon into the Lost Zone. This attack does 50 damage for each card put into the Lost Zone in this way. Cool. But if you can get free fire energy on Blacephalon, then the attack just rolls as normal. And you're trying to get as much energy on the field as you can, so actually, it's not the biggest issue for something like that. And then, of course, we've got Malamar decks. Malamar decks try to just accelerate energy. So, hopefully you can get the extra energy, and this is irrelevant. Or Naganadel, that I know I'm mentioning it a lot lately, right? But Naganadel is really shaking up the format post-Lost Thunder. Naganadel's ability says you can attach an energy from the discard pile to Naganadel once during your turn. So, there are Pokemon like Tapu Koko GX. I profiled this deck the other day. I'll pop a link in the description. You just accelerate the energy onto Naganadel, and then you drop Tapu Koko and move it over to the active. So the attack is lightning, colourless. But you know what? As long as you can get 4 energy on the field, and with Naganadel you should be able to, you'll be fine. So, Pokemon like Blacephalon, whereby they need lots of energy but the basic attack cost is low, aren't really going to be affected by this. And Pokemon that accelerate energy like Naganadel and Malamar, I mean, they'll be affected by this, but it's not going to have the same devastating impact it might on others. And your opponent can just get rid of it before they attack by playing a stadium or discarding it with an attack, and then it's essentially done nothing. So this is not a flawless card. This is a card with plenty of ways around it. However, it will wreck decks like Zoroark and Buzzwole, which are expecting to be able to attack for a single energy. I don't know how often it will work, but when it does work, it's redonk, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely redonk. I'm going to be giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. It is a kind of 4 to 5 Wassie card, but there's enough downsides that I'm having to penalise it a little bit. Great. And it's going to be a one-of in every fairy deck, right? All of these Prism Star Stadiums so far have been good enough that they're an instant one-of in that particular type. Of course you're playing this in a fairy deck. It's just not always going to be amazing, like Thunder Mountain, because it's in your control, basically guarantees you one great turn of use. This doesn't. But it's still a very fun card. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to hear from you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, now. So please do let me know in the comment section what you think about this. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv patreon.com/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure to check out my other channel, youtube.com/WassiePlays. We're doing a deep dive on the Transformers TCG, and it's awesome. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.